First and foremost, thank you for being here. Today is not a happy day. Today's a sad day in the sense that we did recover the remains of missing 12-year-old Lori Paige. I told you 2 years ago that we would find who did this and we would arrest them and bring them to justice. And today I stand before you to tell you we have done just that. So we have recovered Lori's remains and we have arrested the person responsible for this crime. After a comprehensive and exhaustive 22-month investigation into the disappearance of 12-year-old Lori Paige, the Tallahassee Police Department has arrested her father, 36-year-old Andrew Wiley, on the charges of second-degree murder.
If he had gotten her pregnant, if he had given her a venereal disease, those would be hard things to explain. These chilling words from State Attorney Jack Campbell would reveal the horrific truth behind 12-year-old Lori Paige's disappearance, a father's ultimate betrayal that ended in murder. Content warning: this video covers sensitive topics involving the loss of life of a 12-year-old. We've carefully removed graphic content while maintaining factual accuracy for educational purposes under fair use doctrine. Before we dive into this devastating case, I need to ask you something. Some people scroll by without a second thought. You didn't. That means you genuinely care about these stories and the victims behind them. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I love connecting with viewers who are as passionate about justice as I am. And if you're ready to join our community fighting for the forgotten, that subscribe button is right there waiting for you. The bright light dimmed too soon. April 14, 2011. Lori Annalise Paige entered this world, a beacon of intelligence and potential. Born to 22-year-old Andrew Wiley and 17-year-old Miranda White, Lori possessed an extraordinary mind that could read by age 4. Her grandmother Brooklyn Paige described her as exceptionally bright and remarkably self-sufficient for such a young child. But this wasn't a fairy tale beginning. According to Brooklyn, Miranda and Andrew were never truly a couple. The pregnancy was unplanned, unwanted. Miranda allegedly wanted to terminate at 6 months, but it was too late. The foundation of Lori's life was already cracked before she took her first breath. A childhood of abandonment. Miranda's maternal instincts seemed non-existent from day one. Shortly after Lori's birth, Miranda relocated to Tampa, Florida, abandoning her daughter for nights of partying. Brooklyn painted a disturbing picture: Miranda sleeping through entire days, leaving food on low shelves for baby Lori to fend for herself when hunger struck. The bond between mother and daughter never formed. While relatives like godmother Daisy Garcia stepped in to provide care, Miranda remained emotionally and physically absent. Friends and family witnessed this devastating neglect firsthand, a mother who simply couldn't connect with her own flesh and blood. Meanwhile, Andrew claimed he desperately wanted to be part of Lori's life. But Miranda had other plans. She packed up and vanished across state lines without warning, severing all contact between father and daughter for years. Andrew was left in the dark, wondering about the child he barely knew. Life in Nashville's shadows. Most of Lori's early years unfolded in Nashville, Tennessee, where instability became her constant companion. The situation grew so dire that Child Protective Services stepped in, temporarily placing her with her great-grandfather. Though she eventually returned to Miranda's care, the damage was already done. Miranda had begun dating a woman named Latana White, adding another layer of complexity to Lori's already turbulent world. School changes became routine as Miranda chased job opportunities, never considering the impact on her daughter's emotional development. The Nashville Youth Services and Runaway Bureau documented at least one instance of Lori fleeing home after an explosive confrontation with her mother. Even as a child, she was already trying to escape the chaos that defined her existence. In 2021, Andrew re-established contact with Lori. A custody arrangement emerged, 50-50 split with summer visits to Tallahassee, Florida. But in summer 2022, everything changed. Miranda made a devastating phone call that would seal Lori's fate. "I can't come get you," Miranda told her 11-year-old daughter. Financial struggles and housing instability had made her feel incapable of providing a stable home. She convinced herself, and others, that Lori would be better off with Andrew permanently. Lori was heartbroken. Despite their troubled relationship, Nashville represented familiarity, friends, family connections she wasn't ready to abandon. But children don't get to choose their destiny. Andrew enrolled her in Griffin Middle School for the 2022-23 academic year, promising new friendships and fresh starts. Those promises would prove devastatingly hollow. Red flags in Tallahassee. Lori struggled to adapt to life in Tallahassee. Her natural shyness intensified, and she withdrew from extracurricular activities and social connections. Classmates described her as nearly impossible to reach outside school hours, a child deliberately isolated from the world. One student's observation was particularly telling: Lori didn't have social media and wasn't allowed a cell phone. Andrew claimed he'd confiscated her phone due to dropping grades and inappropriate content, a claim that would later take on sinister implications. Communication with Miranda became limited to school computer emails. Andrew allegedly refused phone calls, claiming Miranda was irresponsible as a parent and wouldn't provide necessary documents like Lori's social security number. But perhaps most disturbing were Miranda's warnings about Brooklyn, Andrew's mother. In text messages to godmother Daisy Garcia, Miranda accused Brooklyn of being unsafe and bringing home dates she expected Lori to date too. When pressed for specifics, Miranda remained vague, but her fear was palpable. The school's desperate warnings. By May 2023, Griffin Middle School staff were witnessing alarming behavioral changes. Teacher Nathan George reported deeply concerning interactions, Lori passing notes asking if he liked her, inappropriate hugging, and complete emotional dysregulation with unexplained crying episodes. When confronted by counselors, Lori denied everything, even claiming the note didn't exist. But her behavior continued escalating, throwing classroom items in unprovoked rage, prompting visits from school board counselor Lisa Britt. Lisa's assessment was devastating. Lori was likely suffering from severe depression and profound feelings of inadequacy. The question everyone was asking became impossible to ignore: what was happening in that house? Students began sharing horrific details. Lori had described increasingly violent home situations, beatings for poor grades, Andrew approaching the school bus stop with a belt, threats and intimidation becoming routine. Andrew's brother Antoine tried defending him, claiming Andrew was strict but caring. Yet even he admitted observing Lori watching inappropriate content, the second time this vague accusation surfaced, though police later found no evidence to support these claims. The final explosion. May 2023 brought the beginning of the end. After a particularly brutal confrontation with Andrew, Lori ran away, seeking refuge at a friend's house before eventually going to school. This incident would be Andrew's excuse for what came next. Andrew texted Miranda during Lori's disappearance. Her response was chilling in retrospect: "While your daughter's gone, call me when you hear anything." Even in crisis, the distance between mother and daughter was evident. June 3, 2023. The call that would expose Andrew's web of lies. The 911 call that started it all. "My daughter is missing." Those words from Andrew Wiley to Tallahassee police officer Caleb Babb launched an investigation that would uncover unthinkable horrors. Andrew's story seemed straightforward. He'd left for work at 11 p.m. June 2. When he returned home, Lori was gone. She'd been watching TV when he left, and they'd spent the entire day together. He mentioned her previous runaway incident and that distressing meeting with Miranda as potential triggers. Lori had been withdrawn and distracted in recent days, he claimed. The police response was immediate, canvassing neighborhoods, interviewing school staff, checking with friends and family. When children disappear, every second counts. Margaret Summers, a paraprofessional at Griffin Middle School, became a voice for the voiceless. After 14 days, there has to be at least one adult who has seen her or has an idea where she may have gone, she pleaded with local media. Pastor Rhodey Ferguson mobilized his congregation and the broader faith community. We ought to be her family. We ought to look for her consistently until she's safe and sound, he declared, forwarding Lori's missing person bulletin to 26 pastors across the area. The community's dedication was inspiring and heartbreaking. They organized searches, distributed flyers, held vigils. Everyone believed the shy 12-year-old had simply run away and would come home. Margaret's message to Lori, wherever she might be listening, was prophetic. Lori, you're a great student and a great kid, and there's nothing that you haven't done well enough. Just come back. But Lori couldn't come back. She was already gone. The cracks begin showing. Brooklyn suggested Lori might have fled to Maurice Jones, a man Miranda had dated, the only boyfriend Lori had ever liked. Miranda and LaTana confirmed no contact. Neighbors reported nothing suspicious. But disturbing rumors circulated among Griffin Middle School students, whispers that Lori had been killed, that her body could be found at the airport. Children often know more than adults realize. In August 2023, just months into her disappearance, Miranda posted a cryptic Facebook message, "My baby is gone," with a broken heart emoji. She quickly deleted it. When questioned by detectives, Miranda claimed she meant Lori wasn't with her physically, but that, somewhere in her heart, she knew that she was already dead. A mother's intuition or something more sinister? The investigation intensifies. Andrew initially cooperated, allowing forensic testing of his residence. But investigators found his demeanor deeply troubling, unnaturally calm when told his daughter might be dead, seemingly unbothered by months of her absence. Miranda wasn't helpful either, refusing DNA testing 3 times before finally complying. Only her verified location in Nashville during Lori's disappearance cleared her as a suspect. Then Andrew's story began unraveling. Phone records revealed he'd called in sick May 27th and 29th, days he'd never mentioned. Most damning, GPS data placed him in Jacksonville, Florida, around the time Lori supposedly vanished. February 2024 brought the confrontation Andrew had been dreading. Imagine if it was your child, your sister, or your friend. Would you want their story buried under algorithmic noise, or told with the care and dedication it deserves? Your subscription helps ensure no child's story fades into digital silence. We're not just creating content, we're demanding justice. The interview that exposed everything. February 2024, Andrew was summoned to the Tallahassee Police Department. When he didn't show and ignored calls, police contacted Brooklyn. She revealed Andrew had been anxious for days, furious at being considered a suspect. He eventually agreed to come, but only with a lawyer present. This time, investigators asked the questions that mattered. Had he ever disciplined Lori? Yes, but only when necessary. Could he name any of her friends? Silence. Then came the devastating question. Why did GPS data place him at Jacksonville International Airport when Lori supposedly disappeared? Andrew's answer revealed his desperation. He'd driven a friend named Tim Brown to the airport. But he couldn't provide Tim's contact information, grew agitated when pressed for details, and claimed he didn't have the number with him. Police never found Tim Brown. Andrew's brother Antoine had never heard the name. Even Andrew's girlfriend Simone, returning from military training in Louisiana, confirmed Andrew had a friend named Tim, but his last name was Costume, and he'd never flown from Jacksonville. The fictional Tim Brown was Andrew's first major lie. It wouldn't be his last. Digital evidence of guilt. When Andrew refused to surrender old phones and laptops from the home, police returned with a search warrant. They seized the devices and his Dodge Charger while Andrew made jokes and laughed, a chilling display of indifference. Forensic testing of the Charger revealed blood traces around the front passenger seat and window. The smoking gun was still coming. March 2024 brought the breakthrough investigators needed. Retrieved data showed Andrew had contacted an online travel agency, purchasing a one-way ticket to San Juan, Puerto Rico for June 2, 2023, one day before reporting Lori missing. He'd traveled to Jacksonville to collect the tickets but never boarded the flight, requesting a refund that was denied. He'd also applied for a passport despite Puerto Rico not requiring one for U.S. citizens. The timeline was damning: purchase escape route, kill daughter, report her missing, flee country. Only the last step had failed. The phone that told the truth. When police contacted Brooklyn to call Andrew with them listening, his responses were revealing. While Brooklyn repeatedly tried discussing Lori, decorating her room for her upcoming birthday, keeping her memory alive, Andrew deflected to his own mental health struggles and anger at being suspected. Credit card records showed Andrew purchasing contraceptives in late May 2023. With Simone in Louisiana and no other relationships disclosed, the implications were horrifying. Then came the most damning evidence: an older iPhone seized from Andrew's home. Despite being factory reset, forensic experts recovered devastating search history. Bad neighborhood, Tallahassee, Florida. Apalachicola National Forest dead body. A Lori Paige asking why police would stop looking for missing children. GPS data from the same phone placed Andrew in Thomas County, Georgia, in the early hours of June 1, 2023. Police rushed to the location and began extensive searches across the area. April 5, 2024. After a prescribed burn cleared heavy brush in Thomas County, Georgia, detectives returned to an area they'd searched before. This time, they found human remains in thick brush, exactly where Andrew's phone had placed him nearly a year earlier. Multiple bones were recovered and submitted for DNA analysis. On April 11, 2024, the results confirmed everyone's worst fears: the remains belonged to Lori Paige. Andrew was arrested that same day, ending a 22-month investigation that had consumed multiple states and hundreds of leads. The horrific truth revealed. The charges were devastating: second-degree murder. But the details were far worse. State Attorney Jack Campbell revealed the unspeakable truth: Andrew had sexually assaulted his 12-year-old daughter and impregnated her. When the pregnancy became impossible to hide, he murdered her rather than face exposure. The final piece of evidence was Andrew's medical records. Around the time of Lori's disappearance, he'd sought treatment for a sexually transmitted disease but refused examination. Investigators believed he was seeking medication to treat someone else, his own daughter. Unfortunately, we deal every year with people who impregnate children and even their own children, Attorney Campbell stated grimly. If he had gotten her pregnant, if he had given her a venereal disease, those would be hard things to explain. Tallahassee Police Chief Lawrence Revel explained how the truth emerged: people that are telling the truth typically don't have problems retelling the truth. People who are telling lies really have a hard time keeping all of those straight. This took me hours of painful research, reading autopsies, police files, and witness testimonies that no parent should ever have to give. If you feel safe watching from your screen, please consider supporting our work with a super thanks. Your contribution helps us continue giving voice to victims who can't speak for themselves. Justice Interrupted. April 11, 2024. Police Chief Revel stood before cameras with tears in his eyes. Today is not a happy day. Today's a sad day in the sense that we did recover the remains of missing 12-year-old Lori Paige. He continued, I told you 2 years ago we would never give up. I told you 2 years ago we would find Lori and we would bring her home. I told you 2 years ago that we would find who did this and we would arrest them and bring them to justice. And today I stand before you to tell you we have done just that. Andrew maintained his innocence, claiming police had the wrong guy. His brother Antoine set up a GoFundMe seeking $100,000 to uncover the untruths made by the Tallahassee Police Department and find the real person responsible. The platform quickly removed the fundraiser, as GoFundMe doesn't support legal defense funds for violent crimes. But justice would never be fully served. June 20, 2025, exactly 2 years after Lori's disappearance, Andrew died in custody at 5:36 p.m. from a pulmonary embolism. Natural causes claimed the man who had destroyed his daughter's life. His death meant no trial, no conviction, no legal declaration of guilt. The case is effectively closed, leaving Lori's family without complete closure. The arrest brought mixed emotions to those who'd searched tirelessly for Lori. Margaret Summers, the school paraprofessional who'd become Lori's advocate, called it a dark ending to a dark, twisted tale. She reflected on meeting Andrew during the search, noting his behavior had seemed off even when she was offering comfort. I think that at the beginning she was thought to be a runaway, and I think that initially based on that the ball was dropped, but once TPD picked up the ball they ran with it, and they ran with that ball all the way to the woods in Georgia. Pastor Ferguson, who'd mobilized the faith community, struggled with conflicted feelings. The way she was found ought to be in our memories for the rest of our lives. It's also my way of healing as well, because we have been looking for her for a long time. And even though we got the news that we didn't hope for, we got the answer that started the process of closure. A candlelight vigil was held at Tallahassee's amphitheater. The crowd received candles and bubbles as Michael Jackson's "Human Nature" played in the background. The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence for a little girl whose light was extinguished by the person who should have protected her most. The questions that haunt us. How many warning signs were missed? How many times did Lori try to tell someone what was happening? Her behavioral changes at school, her emotional outbursts, her notes to teachers, were these desperate cries for help that went unheard? The inappropriate content accusations that followed Lori take on sinister meaning now. Was Andrew projecting his own crimes onto his victim? Was he grooming others to believe Lori was somehow complicit in her own abuse? Her running away episodes weren't defiance, they were survival attempts. Every time she fled that house, she was trying to escape hell itself. A father's ultimate betrayal. Andrew Wiley wasn't just Lori's killer, he was her the father of her unborn child, the source of her transmitted disease. He was supposed to be her protector, her safe harbor after years of maternal neglect. Instead, he became her destroyer. The evidence paints a picture of calculated evil, researching remote burial locations, planning international escape routes, manufacturing alibis, lying to investigators for nearly 2 years while his daughter's body decomposed in Georgia woods. Yet even facing overwhelming evidence, he maintained innocence. Even in death, he never confessed, never showed remorse, never gave Lori's family the truth they deserved. Lori Paige represents every child failed by the adults who should protect them. Her story exposes how abuse can hide behind closed doors, how predators manipulate systems and families, how victims can be silenced even as they scream for help. She was bright, creative, loving, a child who could read at 4, who enjoyed Roblox and YouTube videos, who just wanted to be safe and loved. She deserved protection, nurturing, a chance to grow up and chase her dreams. Instead, she got Andrew Wiley. If you're still watching and haven't subscribed, I'm honestly curious. What's holding you back? Drop it in the comments. I actually want to know. Stories like Lori's deserve to be heard, remembered, and learned from. Your subscription helps ensure we never stop fighting for the forgotten victims. Today, Lori would have been 14 years old. She should be navigating high school, making friends, discovering who she wanted to become. Instead, her story serves as a devastating reminder of how evil can lurk in the most trusted places. The investigation that found her remains represents law enforcement at its finest, dedicated officers who refused to give up, who followed every lead across multiple states, who never stopped believing Lori deserved justice. But it also represents systemic failures, warning signs missed, a child's cries for help unheard, predators protected by proximity and trust. We tell Lori's story not for entertainment, but for education. So other children might be saved. So other warning signs might be recognized. So other families might be spared this unspeakable grief. You watched this entire video, felt Lori's pain, and maybe even cried with her family. But if you don't subscribe, her story risks dying in the algorithmic shadows. Let's keep her memory alive. Subscribe, share, comment, make sure Lori Paige is never forgotten. Because every child deserves a voice. Every victim deserves justice. And every story like Lori's deserves to be told with the dignity, respect, and determination she never received in life. Rest in peace, Lori Annalise Paige. Your story will not be forgotten. If you or someone you know is experiencing abuse, please contact National Child Abuse Hotline, 1-800-4A, Child 1-800-422-4453. National Sexual Assault Hotline, 1-800-656-HOPE, 4673. Crisis Text Line, text HOME to 741-741. You are not alone. Help is available.